In the winter of 1900, three men, James Duckett, Thomas Marshall, and Donald MacArthur, were stationed in a newly built lighthouse in the Flannan Isles in Scotland. On December 26th, all three men were missing with no evidence as to where they'd gone. Intrigued? Well, I hope you are. You see, this is a new series I'm trying to start about weird moments in history, kind of like Unsolved Mysteries on BuzzFeed or that show that got revived and is now on Netflix, but told you by a talentless 14-year-old in a closet with a laptop and a microphone. Hi. Anyways, let's get into the mystery of the Flannan Isles Lighthouse Keepers. As I said in the opening, there were three men stationed at the newly built Flannan Isles Lighthouse: James Duckett, Thomas Marshall, and Donald MacArthur, as seen in this photo here. There was technically a fourth person, but that person was always in rotation and was almost never on the island. On the evening of December 15th, a steamer ship named the Arch was on its way from Philadelphia when it was passing through the Flannan Isles, when all of a sudden it spotted the vacant-looking lighthouse. This was strange, as protocol was to always have at least one man stationed in the lighthouse to guide ships in case of a freak storm. And this stuck with the crew of the Arch, but the thing is, they wouldn't arrive at their location at the port of Leith in Scotland for another few days. When the Arch docked, the crew informed local authorities to the seemingly abandoned lighthouse, and a relief crew was quickly gathered and headed by relief lighthouse keeper Joseph Moore. However, by the time the crew was ready to set sail, a massive storm had hit and they were delayed by a week. Once the relief crew made its way to the lighthouse, captain of the relief ship, the Hesperus, James Harvey, noticed that the signal flag placed at the top of the lighthouse was missing. They blew their whistle and the crew even shot off flares, but just nothing. The lighthouse was dead quiet. The crew knew something was wrong, so they quickly docked, and Moore made his way to the lighthouse. When he searched the lighthouse, all he found were the recent supplies still out on the landing, no crew, unmade beds, a turned-over chair, a half-eaten and rotting meal, 2 of the 3 rain jackets were gone, and a lighthouse logbook that Thomas Marshall had been updating with daily entries. On December 12th, Marshall wrote,
"There was severe wind, the likes of which I've never seen in 20 years.
The logbook went on to state that James Duckett had been unusually quiet, and that Donald MacArthur had been crying and praying for the storm to be over. Here's why that just doesn't make any sort of sense. Donald MacArthur was known back on the mainland as a tough guy who could take anything you threw at him, so why would he be crying over a storm in a newly built lighthouse made to handle such events? Furthermore, MacArthur was a seasoned mariner who always had tales of storms worse than what Marshall described in the logbook. The next day, on December 13th, Marshall updated the logbook once.
The winds were still howling, and the sea was even more violent than the day before."
Now, I haven't been able to find what Marshall wrote on the 14th, but for all intents and purposes, let's just say he wrote something similar. On the 15th, he updated the logbook one last time, by only writing 2 lines.
"The skies are clear. God is over all."
You wanna know the weird part? There were no storms reported in that area on the 13th, 14th, or the 15th, and nothing to the magnitude described in the logbook. As of this day, there's no clear evidence as to what has happened to the lighthouse keepers. After Moore searched the lighthouse, he sent a telegraph back to the mainland informing the crew of what he'd found. Word quickly spread with several news outlets reporting on the disappearance. Soon, a detective was brought out to examine what had been found, to come up with some sort of conclusion as to what had happened to the keepers. He came up with a simple, open and shut style explanation. 2 of the 3 men were out on the landing trying to bring in the supply crates, hence the 2 missing rain jackets, when the one man left inside, as was protocol, spotted a monster wave over 200 feet coming and ran out to warn the others, knocking over his chair and leaving the food he was eating behind, only for them all to be swept away with the water. Seems like that settles it, right? Open and shut, case closed, file it away, and we can move on to the next thing, right? Well, here's why that doesn't make any sense. As was written in the logbook, the skies were clear that day, so there'd be no reason to be wearing rain jackets, as well as the fact that there was little to no damage on the lighthouse that would have come with such a massive wave. The detective's answers to what has happened has not stopped the rumors from circulating, with many boiling down to the same point: someone snapped and killed the others, or that they all committed suicide in some sort of weird thing by taking a long walk off a short pier. Others say it was paranormal, or that it was a government conspiracy. Now, what do I think? Given the evidence, I couldn't really tell you, because I have no clue. I know today's video was pretty short, but before I end today's video, I want to say that if you enjoyed the sound of the buttery-voiced Brit who read off those journal passages, and you want to book him for your own voice acting gig, all of his contact info will be the first link in the description. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, make sure to hit that like button. If you haven't already, hit the sub button. Have a good day, y'all.